today.
Happy to be here.
So the first question for you is, tell us about the inspiration behind your artwork.
Well, I absolutely love being outdoors, and we do a lot of traveling, camping kind of stuff, and we all live in a landscape, you know, so I just love to capture it. I love the chaos that's out there, and I like trying to calm it down and put it on canvas.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's my favorite thing about it. To me, there's nothing better than just being out in the woods where it's totally quiet.
Yeah, it's very
Just taking it all in. Yeah.
So what do you find most captivating about the natural world that you find yourself like really trying to capture in your artwork above all else?
I like the challenge of the chaos that you see, like in the deep woods, or I'm looking at some of these things, you know, a big field. It's also complicated, and I love being able to simplify that. It's kind of a metaphor for what life is really like. There's always chaos and problems you have to figure out and things you have to solve, and it's such a good feeling when you do that.
Yeah.
So I like finding the right shapes and putting them together like a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that you mentioned kind of putting it together like a puzzle piece, that you described, could you tell us a little bit about, you know, the process of making these, how you approach it? I
have a method that I've developed by taking a lot of workshops from a lot of different people all over the country. And it's nothing original. There's nothing original left in the world, but I've pulled together things that other artists have done and made it my own. I almost always start with a no-tan. And do you know what a no-tan is?
I'm not familiar.
Okay,
now.
it's just a simple black and white, no other color, just black and white drawing. I do them with the big fat markers, this, and just to get the designs, and I'll do several of those to make sure that it's a good design. Because if you don't have that in the beginning, no amount of detail or fancy brush work is going to save it. And I actually mix my darkest darks and put the no-tan with my darkest dark that's going to be in that painting right on the canvas. A lot of artists will just use it on the side, but I apply it right to the canvas. And then I work up from that. I go for, you know, big shapes and, you know, 5 values or so in every painting, and I work that out. But one thing I love to do is I start by doing, that's why these are taped off here, small abstract versions of what's going to be up there. I mix my colors first, unless I'm lazy and then I just jump in and paint, but the plan is to mix my colors first. Then I do small abstract versions. They're not landscapes, I do them square, so I'm not thinking about trying to make it look like a landscape. And I teach this in my workshops too. So I do that first, and then that informs my painting. And that works out the color problems. And I'll try different background colors on these size also. And sometimes I frame these and hang them with the other work.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun, yeah.
So I see a lot of texture in your pieces.
Yeah.
Is that something you accomplish with just paint
Palette
brushes or
knife.
palette knife?
I'm almost all palette knife. I start with a palette knife every painting, and big scrapers, things like you know, these kind of putty knives from the hardware store, and rollers. I like to use rollers, especially in bigger painting, and work my way up. And then I don't pull the brush out till later because it keeps the details out. I'm not a big detail person. It's just not my thing. There's beautiful detailed paintings, but it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wonderful.
So I go from palette knife, go from no tan, big shapes, dark to light. I use cold wax, oil and cold wax.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be doing that today too. So.
Yeah, that'd be
And then
wonderful.
I just work out the designs on here. Because, you know, a little abstract has the same design principles as any painting will. It still has to have the value and the depth and everything. So you kind of play with it without thinking about it being a landscape. So you don't get caught up in making this look like a tree or a bush or a river. It's just a shape.
It
You
just
just want to
lets
make
it
it
be.
pleasing on here, then that informs my next step.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Then I'm done. Then it's magically done. I wish.
So how about your creative journey? Because you worked as a costume designer, right?
I did.
So tell us a little bit about kind of that
How I
journey
got there.
and what prompted that transition from costume
You know,
designer to a fine artist.
You know, the saying, God laughs when you're making plans. It's been my whole entire life. I thought I was going to be a social worker. Ended up staying home and raising 3 children. When I had the third one, she was a surprise baby, and she had a lot of special needs. So I was home a lot with her, and had not gone back to get my master's in social work yet. But I started volunteering. Oh yes, I had. Let me back that up. You're not recording this, are you? No, I said that backwards. When I stayed home, okay, when I raised my first two kids, when they were like 12 and 10, I went back and got my master's in social work.
Okay.
And then just briefly, 2-year social work career, poof, I got a surprise baby when I was 41. And she had a lot of special needs. She was a real early 1.5 pound preemie, really tragic kind of stuff, but she's fine now. But in fact, she's now a social worker. But during that time staying home with her, because she really needed a full-time mom, there was just no way. There were all kinds of therapies and, you know, doctor's visits all the time. I started volunteering at the Florida Ballet, where my daughter was, my middle child was training very seriously as a ballet dancer. And I just wanted to learn how to make these Russian plait tutus. You know, I'm doing this because those kind that stick out, you know. So there was Florida School of the Arts that was near me. And it was just a community college, but it had, kids came from all over the country to go there, like a smaller version of SCAD. You know, they had every art there, and they're big on theater arts. And I called and said, can you just teach me how to make a tutu? And they said, no, you have to come to the whole program. I said, I've already got a master's degree. I've got a kid in a wheelchair at home. I don't want to do this, you know. And they said, oh, just come down and audition. I'm like, how do I audition? They said, bring some costumes you'd made for some of the, you know, for the Florida Ballet. And I said, okay. So I went down there, stood in line with all the 18-year-olds. I was the only one that wasn't right out of high school. And they offered me a full talent scholarship to go. And I said, I have to do this. I can't turn this opportunity down.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm not taking any other classes. You know, I'm not, they said everything will transfer in. You'll just have to take the arts part. So it was still almost 3 years because it was all studio work. But it was so much fun, and I totally loved it. And during that time, you know, you're designing costumes, you have to sketch. So that got me into the 2D art, which I never really did before my whole life. So here I was at 50, just starting that. And that got me in, I worked for the ballet for about 8 or 9 years, and then just started painting.
Yeah.
Who
Did
knew?
you dabble in acrylic first, or kind of go straight into oil?
Started with acrylic because that were the classes around me. I just took community classes, and you know, little old ladies in the classroom copying everything exactly, and that really bored me pretty quickly. And I wanted to take workshops elsewhere, and they were all in oils at the time. So I made the jump to oils. I never went back to acrylic. I do like to play with gouache though a lot. And that's a lot of fun. Especially for travel. And now I get to travel with my husband all over the country and out of the country, and I paint wherever we go. So it's a lot of fun, yeah. We did 2 months in Nova Scotia this summer, and I drive my plein air gear everywhere. We painted in Ireland last year for a month, and just, it's a great time of life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're painting, do you do most of these in one setting, just wet on wet?
No,
or?
I'm not real good at grabbing it in one setting. My best work, I think, is stuff that sits around in my studio for a while. And I'll have, you know, 3 or 4 paintings going at a time. I have 5 easels in my studio at home. And, you know, I have a color and I'll walk over to this one. Oh, that's what I've been waiting for. You know, you just don't know what it needs till you've looked at it for a while. And they'll be okay. And if they don't sit there, and I have sold stuff off the easel before, but I always wonder how much better it might have been if I'd have taken it home. Because it just, you see something else. And I've painted on trains. I mean, that painting right there, I did small abstract versions of it on the train while I was going by these big rice fields in South Texas, Louisiana. And yeah, I did them at gouache. I sold those pieces, and unfortunately, some of those went up in the fire. I don't know if you heard that story.
Oh, no.
Oh, I was in a gallery in Blue Ridge for a couple of years, and just last November it burned down.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I lost 35 paintings, and it was just heartbreaking, and I almost just said, oh, screw it. I just, you know, how do I get past this? But I just, you know, it's like, just do it.
Yeah.
So I just got to work hard, and actually my work's taken a different direction now, so it's kind of cool. The whole block got burned in the city.
Wow,
yeah.
that's terrible.
Yeah, from a restaurant that kind of had a gas explosion. Went right down to our little place and burned it up.
Gosh.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Well, kind of speaking of that, I guess, bump.
Yeah, yeah.
Was there a time in your
Bump in the
creative
road.
career where you were discouraged or full of self-doubt?
I'm always discouraged, and I'm always full of self-doubt. And I think if you ask any artist, if they don't say that, they're not telling the truth.
You know, I think that's very true.
I think it's just, whenever I do a painting that I really love, it's like I don't have another one in me. And I don't know if that's just a personality trait. I'm not a depressed person, I'm really not, but every artist that I talk to that I know personally feels that a lot, you know, that has had some success. They feel that. It's like, oh, I don't know, it's kind of scary.
What has helped you kind of move past that or overcome that?
Just knowing that they just look bad in the middle. There's just a part of a painting that I call it junior high or middle school. And that came from another artist who's so good. He teaches all over the country. He's a big award winner. His name went right out of my head. He said that in a class. They're in junior high now. And I tell myself, okay, it'll graduate. You know, there's just a part. Like if I'm doing a commission and they want to see it, and I'm like, no, I'll see it till the end. If I'm out painting plein air, people come up, I'm like, oh, please look at my website. This is not my best work, you know. It's very ego-driven. You know, being an artist, your ego gets in the way all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to put it down and let yourself fail. I have boxes and boxes of bad paintings, and I pull them out once in a while, and sometimes I can save them, sometimes not.
Yeah.
So you just have to, you know.
Keep making.
Yeah, yeah. So I like painting plein air. It's not my favorite sport though. You know, I don't do my best work. I can never, like I was saying earlier, get it exactly how I want it outdoors. Sometimes I have to take it in and let it cook a little while.
Yeah.
And a simmer. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You probably know that.
Well, I mean, that's what I hear, you know, with a lot of artists. I mean, you gotta create bad work to create good work. And even the good work, it always goes through an ugly phase. You just gotta keep making.
It does. It absolutely does. It's exciting. I like the early phases, and I know it's got a good design, and I've got this great background color, and it's so exciting. And then it just kind of got blah. A lot of these. I told you I'm messy. It's not quite turned out. Probably should have put a little wax in this. Walks in, and you know, we had been friends in Florida growing up. This was here in Georgia, over in Georgia. I really didn't start painting until I was in my 50s, and I'm in my 70s now. So yeah, in Louisiana,
It does have that
Hartsfield.
movement to it.
Oh, good. I'm glad you see that.
Yeah. I mean, I was just sitting here looking at it. I do not.
It's about, I think, 90 or 75 miles north of it. It's been so fun.
Last year.